I watched the water swirl red around my ankles, a thin ribbon of blood trailing from the bite mark on my shoulder. My hand shook as I scrubbed between my legs, harder than I needed to, trying to erase the feel of his tongue, the imprint of his breath. My phone buzzed on the bathroom counter, my husband's name lighting up the screen like a warning flare. I didn't answer. He was asleep 2 rooms away, probably dreaming of the woman he thought I still was. The one who packed his lunch and folded his laundry. Not the one who knelt on a stranger's floor an hour ago, whispering things I can't even repeat to myself. I told myself it was just once, that I could come back from it. But I still had his fingerprints on my thighs, and I wasn't sure I wanted to be clean. The therapist's office smells like lavender and disinfectant. Clean, safe, artificial. I sit across from her in the beige chair, legs crossed too tightly, trying to look composed. I think I lost myself, I say, my voice almost a whisper. But even I'm not sure if I'm telling the truth, or if I just want someone to believe I didn't start out broken. 2 years ago, I was the woman people envied. Married at 29, a pretty suburban house with a lemon tree out back. A husband who texted me, "Good morning, beautiful," every day without fail. I used to bake banana bread on Sundays. I used to hum while folding laundry. I used to believe love was a stable thing, warm, like a lamp left on for you. Now I delete text messages at red lights. I check my panties for evidence. I wake in the middle of the night gasping, unsure whose name I just moaned in my sleep. But it didn't start with sex. It started with silence. Last summer, I was slicing bell peppers at the kitchen island. My husband was sitting 5 feet away, scrolling through his phone, laughing at something I wasn't part of. I remember looking up at him and realizing I hadn't touched him, really touched him, in 3 weeks. We spoke like roommates. "Did you pay the water bill? What do you want for dinner?" Not once did he look at me like I was still a woman. I felt invisible. Unseen. Now, I can't stop seeing myself, spread open in motel mirrors, lips bitten raw, mascara smeared like war paint. I thought if I let someone else look at me, I might remember what I used to be. But the more he looked, the more pieces I lost. I think I'm lonely, I say to the therapist. She nods like she's heard it 1,000 times. But she hasn't heard what I did. She hasn't heard the moment he said, "You taste like someone else's wife." She doesn't know I came anyway. I keep flashing back to the sound of the front door closing when my husband leaves for work. The quiet that follows. The ticking of the kitchen clock. That's when it starts. The humming in my head. The ache. The need. Sometimes I swear I smell his cologne before I even get out of bed. Sometimes I touch myself while lying next to my husband, and I'm not even pretending it's him. This isn't a story with a beginning. It's a collection of fractures. And I only started seeing the cracks once I had something sharp enough to split them wider. It started with a question. Do you ever feel like you're sleepwalking through your own life? He asked it casually, like it didn't detonate inside me. Like he didn't just slice clean through a part of me I hadn't let anyone touch. In years. His name was Julian, 27, freelance photographer. My company hired him for a rebranding campaign. Headshots, glossy team photos, a few staged smiles in the conference room. He wore rings on 3 fingers, kept his sleeves rolled up to reveal inked forearms, and smelled like cedar and cigarettes. He wasn't supposed to notice me. I wasn't supposed to notice him. But the first time he pointed a camera at me, I felt naked. Not stripped down naked. Seen. My blouse clung too tightly across my chest that day. My lipstick was a touch too dark, and my hair had frizzed slightly in the heat. I remember feeling gross, frumpy, faded. But he lowered the lens slowly, tilted his head, and said, "You have the kind of sadness that photographs beautifully." I laughed it off, told myself it was just a line. But that night, while my husband snored beside me. I replayed Julian's words in my head until they began to sound like truth. After that, he started finding reasons to talk to me. Emails that didn't need sending. Slack messages that ended with winks. Once, in the break room, he stood too close when reaching for a mug and his arm brushed against mine. I didn't move away. I didn't want to. That weekend I dreamt about him. Not sex, at least not fully. Just him whispering things into my neck while I stood in my kitchen in nothing but a shirt. I woke up soaked. My husband stirred beside me, murmured something, pulled me close. I let him touch me, but I wasn't really there. Julian became a flicker I couldn't extinguish. A phantom behind my eyelids. I began checking his Instagram compulsively, scrolling through portraits of women I didn't know. Beautiful, raw, cracked open like fruit. I wanted him to see me like that. To peel me. To ruin me. I told myself I was just flattered. That it was harmless. But I started dressing differently for work. Lipstick redder, necklines lower. I laughed too loudly when he was near. My heart raced when I saw his name pop up on my phone. He noticed. One Thursday, while walking back from a meeting, he stopped mid-step and turned to me in the empty stairwell. "You ever think about running away?" he asked. "From what?" I whispered. "From everything." His eyes held mine too long. I felt it then. This was not a flirtation. Not something small and secret I could control. It was a match to gasoline. A countdown. That same night, he sent me a photo, black and white, blurry, of a woman's hand gripping a man's neck. No words, just the image. I stared at it for 30 full minutes before deleting it. Then I turned off the lights and touched myself in the dark, pretending it was his neck under my hand, his breath catching against my palm. That was the moment. Not the first kiss. Not the first time he touched me. It was the night I realized I didn't want to be saved. I wanted to be consumed. The first time I imagined Julian touching me, I was folding my husband's underwear. I remember the exact moment, the feel of the soft cotton, the faint scent of our detergent. My body moved through the task automatically, but my mind had unraveled. I saw Julian's hands instead of mine. Rougher, calloused, his knuckles grazing my skin. His voice low behind me. "Does he even see you anymore?" I dropped the laundry and went into the bathroom, locked the door, and leaned against the counter. My chest was tight. My reflection looked unfamiliar. Flushed cheeks, dilated eyes, breath short like I'd run up a flight of stairs. I stared at myself and whispered his name, just to hear how it sounded in my mouth. Julian. That night, I started a secret journal. I didn't write about my husband or dinners or deadlines. I wrote about Julian, about what I wanted him to do to me, about how scared I was, of how badly I needed something I shouldn't want. Entry, June 3rd. I see him when I close my eyes. I feel his breath on the back of my neck when I'm brushing my teeth. I think I'd let him ruin me if he asked nicely. Or even if he didn't. That's when the hallucinations started. Not full-blown visions, more like flickers. Once, I was alone in my office, typing an email, and I could smell him. That smoky pine wood scent. I turned, expecting him to be there, leaning against the doorframe with that crooked smile. But the room was empty. Another time I heard him say my name in a crowded elevator. No one else reacted. It was in my head. And still, I swore I felt heat between my legs like he'd whispered it directly into them. I stopped eating. My thoughts were too loud. I started replaying every interaction, every word he'd ever said to me. I dissected our conversations like a scientist examining a new species. Did he mean that when he touched my wrist? Was that a real look, or just my need projecting? One night, I lay in bed while my husband slept beside me, and I imagined Julian at the foot of our bed watching, just watching. I imagined what he'd say. He doesn't know what you are under all that sweetness. But I do. I'd make you beg. I moaned softly. My husband stirred, spooned me. I cried silently against his arm. Entry, June 12th. I think I'd leave everything. My house, my name, my sanity, if Julian asked me to. Is this what addiction feels like? One afternoon, we ended up alone in the elevator at work. He didn't speak, didn't touch me, just stared. The air between us went thick. My nipples hardened beneath my bra, and my thighs clenched involuntarily. I was terrified he could smell the want on me, that I was leaking it. When the doors opened, he brushed past me. "You shouldn't look at me like that," he said under his breath. But he didn't say stop. I started fantasizing about him in every room of my house. On the kitchen table, against the wall in the hallway, bent over the bathroom sink. Once, while stirring soup on the stove, I imagined him behind me, hand around my throat, whispering filth into my ear. I spilled the ladle. The burn brought me back. Entry, June 16th. I don't know where I end and the fantasy begins. I think about him when I'm in meetings, while grocery shopping, while kissing my husband. I want to be punished for it. I want him to ruin me, so I never get put back together. I started dressing differently even at home, wearing lacy underwear under sweatpants, painting my nails dark just in case he ever saw them wrapped around his cock. I became paranoid, careful, slippery. I locked my phone. I deleted browser histories. I created a fake email to send myself letters I pretended were from him. I'd write them late at night, lines like, "I want to see how far you'll go, what you'll give up, who you'll become. You're a liar in silk, just waiting to be stripped down to your truth." I would read them over coffee, pretending I was the kind of woman men wrote those things to. He knew. Of course he did. One day he passed by me in the hallway and let his fingers graze my lower back. Just for a second. Barely a touch, but it was enough. I felt it like a shock to my spine. I went into the bathroom, locked the door, and came with 2 fingers inside me, biting down on my wrist to keep quiet. I think that's when I stopped believing I was innocent. The lines had already blurred. Between want and need, between memory and desire, between what was fantasy and what I was willing to do. Entry, June 20th. This isn't about love. This is about hunger. I'm starving in a life where I'm supposed to be full. And he looks at me like I'm already half-eaten. I started seeing him in mirrors. Not really, I know that. But I'd glance up while brushing my hair, and for a heartbeat I'd swear he was behind me, watching, waiting. It thrilled me, and it scared the hell out of me. Every part of me was shifting. And I hadn't even kissed him yet. The first time it happened, it wasn't planned. At least, that's what I told myself. We were supposed to go over final photo selects for the campaign. A simple meeting. 10 minutes, 20 tops. It was late. Most of the office had cleared, out, and the hallway lights were dimmed to save energy. We were alone in the editing suite, just the glow of his laptop screen casting shadows across our faces. I stood behind him as he clicked through images. I could smell him, familiar now, almost intimate. He leaned back in his chair, looked up at me and said, "You know you've been asking for this." I didn't deny it. I didn't speak at all. When he stood, he didn't kiss me. He grabbed my waist and pushed me against the wall so hard I gasped. His mouth went to my neck, biting, not gently, not romantically, like he wanted to claim something. And I let him. I didn't think. I didn't breathe. My hands found his belt before my brain caught up. My body moved like it had been waiting for this command, like it had memorized the steps before I even made the choice. He pulled down my underwear and lifted me onto the table. There were headshots strewn beneath me, my own face staring up, in black and white as he entered me without a word. It was not soft, not slow. I scratched at his shoulders. He left bruises on my thighs. I came with my forehead against the wall, biting down on the sound, thinking only one thing. He's not my husband. And I didn't stop. The second time, we met at a hotel, off the freeway. Cheap, anonymous, the kind of place where the front desk doesn't ask for IDs. He opened the door already shirtless. I felt something break open in me. We didn't undress each other. We tore things off. I remember my bra strap, snapping. I remember his teeth on my breast, his fingers inside me before we even made it to the bed. When he fucked me, I cried. Not because it hurt, but because it didn't. Because I'd never felt more awake in my life. But the guilt always came after. Lying there afterward, sheets soaked with sweat, I'd turn my head and look at the stains on the ceiling and think of my husband making coffee at home, feeding the dog, trusting me. One night, Julian traced a line down my stomach with his finger and said, "Do you think about him while you're with me?" I didn't answer, because the truth was worse than he thought. Sometimes I did, but not out of loyalty. I thought about him to delay my orgasm, to make it last longer, to stretch out the pleasure that was never his to give me. Once, during sex, Julian pulled my hair and whispered, "You like being owned, don't you?" And I came so hard I saw stars. The days after were the hardest. I'd come home raw, disoriented. I'd wash his taste off my skin and sit down to dinner like nothing happened. I'd let my husband kiss me on the forehead, thank me for doing the laundry, tell me how lucky he was, and I'd nod, smile, swallow it all down. But the lies began to rot inside me. I became paranoid, distant, on edge. I'd flinch when my husband touched me, and then overcompensate by initiating sex. I'd fake moans, close my eyes and picture Julian, and feel disgusted with myself after. Sometimes in the middle of it, I'd cry silently, press my face into the pillow so he wouldn't see. Entry, June 28th. I'm two people now. One who folds laundry and makes appointments. The other who takes off her wedding ring in hotel bathrooms. I don't know which one is real. Maybe neither. There was one night, after Julian and I fucked against the bathroom sink in a bar downtown, when he held my chin and said, "You're never going back, are you?" I didn't know what he meant. To my husband? To my life? Or to the version of me before him? I laughed. Then I kissed him again. But when I got home that night, my husband was still awake, waiting up with a blanket on the couch and a cup of tea. "Everything okay?" he asked. I lied so easily it frightened me. "Yes," I said. "Just work stuff." He smiled. "I miss you lately. Let's take a trip soon. Just us." I nodded, and excused myself to the bathroom, where I sat on the floor and stared at my reflection. My thighs still trembling, his scent still clinging to me, and I wondered, just for a second, if maybe I wanted to get caught. The night it all shattered, the world was too quiet. I should have known. I should have felt the shift in the air. But I was too busy checking my reflection in the hotel mirror, fixing the smudge of lipstick he'd left on my jaw with his stubble. My phone buzzed twice. Julian. Room 218. Doors open. I felt that little rush again, the one I'd become addicted to. The thrill of being wanted this badly, of stepping over the line one more time, then another, and another. But Julian was different that night. He was already drinking when I got in. Something brown, something strong. The bottle half gone. He kissed me like he was punishing me. Like he wanted to imprint his mouth onto mine so I couldn't use it for lies anymore. Then he said it. I think you love me. I froze. The room blurred for a moment. I think, he continued, his voice suddenly soft, you want out of your life, out of him. You wouldn't keep coming back if you didn't want something real. I laughed, a dry, nervous sound. This isn't real, Julian. He flinched like I'd slapped him. You say that, he whispered. But your body says otherwise. You beg me. That's not love, I snapped. That's need, hunger. It doesn't mean anything. He stood too fast, knocking the glass off the nightstand. It shattered across the floor. Don't lie to me, he said, his voice tightening. You think he sees you? He doesn't even touch you the way I backed toward the door. This was a mistake. He blocked my exit, breathing hard. No, he's the mistake. I'm the truth. I pushed past him, grabbed my coat, and left. My pulse was in my throat. I didn't stop until I reached the street, lungs burning, skin prickling. I didn't go home that night. I drove aimlessly for hours, ending up at a 24-hour diner with greasy eggs and coffee that tasted like burnt cigarettes. I sat in the corner booth, replaying his words, shaking. When I finally got home just before dawn, I found my husband sitting on the edge of our bed, holding my journal. Not my real one. The other one. The one I thought I'd buried beneath a drawer of old scarves. I read it, he said quietly. All of it. I couldn't breathe. I thought maybe it was fiction. A fantasy. He looked up at me, eyes rimmed red. But then I found the hotel receipt in your coat pocket. My stomach turned. I was going to make you breakfast, he added, almost as an afterthought. Surprise you. And then I reached into your coat to get your keys. I sat down on the floor, knees to my chest. I kept telling myself I knew you, he said. I loved you. That you'd never... I didn't mean for it to happen. You wrote that he made you feel alive. He laughed bitterly. What did I make you feel? Dead? I wanted to scream, to cry, to tear my skin off. Instead, I whispered, invisible, silence. I expected rage. I expected him to throw things, to storm out. But what he did was worse. He simply stood, walked past me, and left the room. The door closed softly. That softness broke me. I stayed on the floor for hours. My mouth dry, my limbs numb, the journal beside me like an open wound. Entry, July 1st. I thought I was in control. But now I realize I was just circling the edge of something I couldn't name. I didn't fall. I jumped. Julian texted later. You okay? I didn't answer. He called. I let it ring. Then another text. He found out, didn't he? You should have run when I said. That's when I blocked his number. Not because I was done, but because I was terrified I wasn't. I heard my husband crying in the guest room that night. Softly, the way I had, so many nights before. I didn't go to him. Not because I didn't want to, but because I knew I didn't deserve to. I still sleep on my side of the bed. He moved out 2 weeks ago. Said he needed space. Said he'd let me know if he could ever look at me the same way again. The silence in the house is louder than his absence. Every creak of the floorboards sounds like accusation. Every clock tick feels like punishment. I don't cry. Not anymore. I just move through the days like I'm wearing someone else's skin. People ask how I'm doing. I smile too quickly. I tell them I'm rebuilding. I use words like healing and growth. But last night, I dreamed about Julian. Not the sex. Not the hotels or the bruises. Just his voice, whispering my name in the dark. When I woke up, my hands were trembling. I pressed my face into the pillow and tried to breathe. I wanted to text him, just to see if his number still worked. I didn't, but I wanted to. I still keep the journal, not the lies I used to write for myself, but the real one. The one where I tell the truth, even when it makes me sick. Entry, August 11th. I thought losing them both would be the worst thing. But what scares me more is how much I miss the chaos, the thrill. I don't know who I am without the danger. Maybe that's the real addiction. Not love, not lust. Just the sharp edge of almost destruction. Sometimes I sit in the shower until the water runs cold, hoping it will shock something back into me. Sometimes I scroll through old photos of my husband's smile and try to remember what it felt like to be loved without shame. Other nights, I put on red lipstick, just to see my mouth look dangerous again. And I wonder, if I opened that hotel room door one more time, would I feel alive? Again, or would I finally disappear,